Welcome to another round of Meditation Hour. And I was just thinking about multi faced people. And in a lot of ways, I have multiple personas, and I bet like every single person does have multiple personas for sure. But recently, I realized like some of my close relatives, in some sense, have been acting in such a multi-faced way that kind of made me think, like, what circumstances, what's thought process, what, I don't know, whatever things were bubbling within them made them to kind of show that persona. Maybe they always had that persona. Maybe they were wearing different kind of mask on top of their true self, and now that they have the leverage of some sort, or at least from their point of view, they are laying off some of their masks. So they are laying off some of their mask, uh, or who knows, maybe they changed over times. And that's true for like every one of us, right? Because we wear so many different masks, so many different identities and labels when we are in different conditions, different circumstances. And at times we tend to associate ourselves with those temporary identities, so to speak. For instance, when I'm at work, I wear the identity of a professional, because when I'm contributing to the company, when I'm interacting with the customers, when I'm adding to the product and services, that's a label I'm going to use. Whereas when I'm performing in front of audience, I'm wearing the mask of a comedian, because that's what I'm doing. And those two personas are kind of different, even though they are similar in the aspect, because it's common, it's still part of me. But at the same time, those are two separate personas, two different masks I'm wearing at different times to associate different things. And even those two personas, even though they have a part of me, does not reflect the true self of me, right? Because when I'm interacting with audience, even for like 4 minutes or 5 minutes, or hopefully one day more than an hour, I'm still holding that persona for that limited amount of time. And when I'm here, when I'm sitting by myself, when I'm interacting, may say maybe with close friends and family and whatnot, I might be able to dive more into my true self. But even that is questionable, because what exactly is true self? Because I'm constantly evolving based on my environment, based on the situations happening in the world, let alone the circumstances and situations happening around me. And all of these factors are either cementing a type of label or persona within me, or constantly changing a type of persona or label within me. And that's where I like the process of deep introspection, either using meditation or psychedelics, or watching some or listening to some good podcast or documentary, to kind of look at my life circumstances from a different point of view. And I am very, very grateful for all the tools I have access to. And I think we all should be, because we are living in this fantastic time where we have access to so many tools, which and even one good book can change your life, let alone having access to so many books, so many Twitter feeds, so many documentaries, so many practices, that it's mind blowing. And at times it's also kind of overwhelming, because now you have to sort of figure out which tools actually works for you. And the key is always to kind of dive deeper within each of these tools, right? And there are some tools which, when overdone, could be more harmful than helpful. For instance, social media. If you overdo social media, it could bring in more distraction, more harm into your life than the good. But on the other end, if you do more meditation, there is no harm, so to speak, other than you're just investing your time into meditation and maybe miss out on, say, connecting and bonding with people and work and whatever other things you might be interested in. So that could be the only downside effect, I guess, because you, at some level, you'll be disconnected from the world if you meditate for hours. But at the same time, meditation is such an interesting tool because it will help you to connect within yourself. And if you look at it at the end of all of this game of life, who knows what's going to happen? But if you have that inner peace and inner happiness, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter on things you might have missed out, because they're always going to be road not taken. No matter what you do, no matter where you go, there always will be something which you'll be missing out on. And that's where this whole terminology of FOMO comes into picture, right? Because you'll be always fearing on missing out something. And that fear is, it's a valid fear, because especially when we are living in this current era where we want to experience so many different things, and missing out on any particular experience could cause anxiety, and that fear is warranted, and I totally get that. But once you start meditating and practicing some of these esoteric practices, you would hopefully get a clear idea of how to let go of these resentments. I mean, honestly, there were a lot of resentments in my life which I had held in for a long period of time, and but now I just let it go, because that's and there's no point in holding all of that in the first place. And on top of that, I observed that holding on to those resentment gave me an excuse to not do something, to not act on something, because I can always play a victim by holding on to some sort of resentment. And even if that resentment is towards me for not taking a particular action or not doing something specifically which I should have back in the day, or whatever it might be. So regardless, the point being that we are multi face beings. We wear different personas in different circumstances. And I personally, my personal goal is to cut down on all of these masks, or at the very least, be aware of the mask and persona I'm wearing when I'm in different situations, because then I know I'm aware of what role I'm playing in that particular instance, rather than just acting from my engraved pattern. And this happens plenty of times in my life, especially when I'm surrounded with family or when I interact with family, because it brings out all of those engraved patterns within me. And at times I'm like, okay, I'm not that person. Why am I acting or behaving in a way I used to maybe like 20 years back or something? So that's a part of being around family, I guess, because they triggers different aspects of your persona, and those triggering points are not always bad. I mean, those are just triggers. It could be good triggers, it could be bad triggers, and like Pavlovian triggers, it's just a triggering point which led to different set of emotions or behaviors, and which brings in a part of you, a persona of you, which again could be good or bad. And I feel that uh, yeah. So the one of the things which I was pondering over while journaling today was to embrace whatever suffering I am going through, because the fact of the matter is that as long as I'm breathing, and this is applicable for to every being, obviously, as long as we are alive and breathing, we will be suffering. It could be different degree, different level, or different type of suffering. It could be physical suffering, emotional suffering, mental suffering, or some other type of suffering, but we all will be suffering as long as we are alive. So, the best thing to do is not to avoid that suffering, but instead embrace that suffering. Because once at least from personal standpoint, once I wrote this down, I felt so much lighter. Because once I embraced the suffering of my insecurities, then I became okay. Is that it? Is that what I'm scared of? Is that what I'm fearful of? I mean, what is the worst case situation in all of this? First of all, my life here is temporary, so it really doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter what. Once I'm dead, it doesn't matter how the world perceives me. It doesn't matter what I want the world to perceive me either, because it's out of my hands. And there might be more suffering if the world perceives me in a way I don't want the world to perceive me as. But again, that's not in my hands. I can try and portray as a particular persona, but it does not mean that the world will see me with that persona. The world will see me as they would like to see. And when I say world, I mean obviously individuals. And it's not in my hands. And that's also a a losing game, because if I am associating my inner peace and happiness based on how someone else will perceive me, then I lost the battle then and there itself, because I don't know how they would see me. The best thing to do is to perceive my life from my eyes or through my eyes, and just not care how the world will perceive me. But I get it. There is a survival logic behind that, because I want to be nice to the people, because I want to be part of the society, because that means I am accepted in the society. Uh, and at the same time, I also want to be aware and be true to myself, to not just play the societal rules. So there is this fine, thin line where it's on me how I play these societal rules without seeking their approval, but at the same time, ensuring that I'm part of society and not cutting myself off from the society. And that's something I want to. It's okay to be detached from the society as well. Plenty of sages and godmen used to do this when they detach themselves from society, go and meditate or do whatever they want in their solitude, and that's perfectly all right. But that's not what I want from my life, right? So it depends on individual goals, I guess. And personally, like I said, I want to be part of the society without caring to be accepted by the society. And that's the most powerful place, I guess, because when I say I want to be part of society, I mean that I'm not going to commit a crime to the society. I'm going to be kind and be serviceful to the society. So that's what I mean by being part of the society. Um, not trying to be accepted by society and playing by the societal rules, even if it doesn't align with me. Even though I said that, I can totally see times in my life where I had to play by the rules, which still doesn't align with me, and those were the growth moments, right? Because whenever I felt that this is not what I want, but I have to do it because of the societal rules, then that's a conversation within myself, like, what can I do to get out of it? And there are a few things which I cannot get out of it, like paying taxes, for instance, right? I mean, even though I do not like paying taxes like billions of other people, but I have to play by those rules, and that's another conversations. And I understand the logic behind that, and also the morality behind that, because just by paying taxes, if I can have a peaceful time, if I don't have to be drafted in wars which I don't want to fight, that alone is a good trade-off to pay taxes. But the bigger point is that when it comes down to different individual circumstances, the I have a choice to play by my rules, in the sense, play by the rules which are true to me, rather than playing by what society expects out of me. And in a lot of ways, that is a powerful place to be. Um, and I'm conflicted in the sense, like, there are plenty of times when I did not act on it, but I could also see, like, the people who did acted on some of the peak point, by not playing to the societal rules and being honest to themselves, actually gained multifold by their choice, by their decision. And this is what I am learning and growing towards, because honestly, I broke a lot of my own family rules. And again, it goes back to, like, what exactly are those family rules? Those are just rules laid out by the elders of the family, and if I don't want to follow that, I choose not to, instead of, like, giving in into that family pressure of some sort and just acting on because of that family pressure. No. And that actually made me feel more powerful in as a individual. And as a consequence, I guess some family members will be disappointed, will be whatever, at me. And that's the thing, that's the risk, in some sense, I'm willing to take, because I feel that my life is, I'm gonna live my life by my rules. I'm not gonna play my life by someone else's rules. And that means redefining what rules I want to live my life by, rather than just acting as a sheep behind someone else's rules. And even though I said redefining my life, I do redefine my life based on some of the principles and the rules of the people I look up to, right? And some of those rules are consistency, discipline, commitment, um, and a lot of others, being honesty. And this is a constant process, because it's not easy to follow through on all of these things, and that's why these are character building rules. And have just started. I've just started, maybe like 3 4 years back, and more seriously just a year back. And even within this past year, I could see that I blundered so many times. And in a lot of ways, that's okay too. That's a part of me which I'm processing through, which I'm working through. And maybe I do need to fall down plenty of time so that I can learn from those mistakes and pick myself up. Because there are a few people who learn like this, who make a mistake and learn from their mistake and move on. But there are areas of my life where I need to relearn some aspects multiple times. And I guess that's part of the process. That's what makes things interesting, because if I could just learn everything on a single go, then at some point, I guess I would have very fewer things to learn, or at the very least, I have to learn or relearn some things, relearn few things which I just learned, and that would more cause more chaos. Because at times you may learn something today, and if you have to relearn tomorrow, then you would be more confused, like which one is the correct thing, because you just learned something yesterday and now you're relearning it. But whereas if you end up relearning something after a year, then that makes sense, because that seems more like a stepwise progression rather than immediate relearning and then causing yourself more confusion. I hope I'm making sense, but even if I'm not, then who cares? I guess like when I if and when I'm gonna rewatch this back in future, maybe when I'm, I don't know, 60 or 70, and will be scrolling through all of my videos to kind of see what mindset I used to have at that point of time. Because this is more like a timestamp, right? Like everything I'm saying is flowing through me and sort of aligned with where I am at in my life. And it would be interesting and fascinating experiment to see where I am right now, and see it from the future. That is, like, when I'm like 60 or 70 years old, and hopefully by then I'll be like, okay, yeah, that dude is rock solid, and he did lived up his life based on what he is saying in that video, rather than, yeah, that dude will have like a whole different notion of life, and life had a lot of I don't know, um, craziness or chaos to change that dude completely. But regardless, I guess it's pretty late, and I should start my today's meditation.